The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a sound like thunder. Jiho Park walked through them with steady steps, leading Earth's small delegation into a room that could hold thousands. Above them, the ceiling showed the stars themselves, moving in real time across the galaxy. Around them sat representatives from 47 different alien species, each one more ancient and powerful than humanity could imagine. Jiho wore a simple black suit. Behind him walked 5 other humans, all dressed similarly. They looked plain compared to the aliens around them. The Korvathi wore armor made of living metal that shifted colors. The Thraxians sat in chairs designed for their insect bodies, their quantum devices humming softly. The Luminari didn't even have bodies, just floating orbs of pure light that pulsed with different colors as the humans walked to their designated spot. Whispers filled the chamber. Some aliens clicked their mandibles. Others made sounds the translation devices struggled to convert. A few simply stared with what seemed like amusement in their multiple eyes. Chancellor. Vrex of the Korvathi Empire rose from his throne. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, his red skin covered in ceremonial markings that glowed faintly. When he spoke, his voice boomed across the chamber without need for amplification. The species known as humanity requests full membership in the Galactic Council, Vrax said, and paused. This request is highly unusual. Humanity has barely left their home system. They have no collective consciousness, no advanced quantum technology, no psionic abilities. They live for less than a century on average. Laughter rippled through the chamber. It wasn't cruel exactly, but it wasn't kind either. It was the laughter of the very old watching the very young attempt. Something impossible. Elder Jan of the Eternal Caste floated forward. The Eternal Caste were beings who had achieved perfection millions of years ago, or so they claimed. Jan appeared as a golden humanoid shape, though everyone knew it was just a projection for the benefit of species who needed visual reference. Let us review humanity's achievements, Jan said, his voice musical and calm. You discovered fire 400,000 of your years ago. You developed agriculture 10,000 years ago. You reached your own moon only 66 years ago. You made contact with galactic civilization 12 years ago, Jan gestured, and holographic images appeared in the center of the chamber. They showed Earth a small blue planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. Then images of human cities, human technology, human spacecraft. All of it looked primitive compared to what surrounded them in this chamber. The Korvathi conquered 17 star systems before your species learned to make stone tools, Jan continued. The Thraxians had mastered quantum engineering when your planet was still molten rock. The Malari exist as a single unified consciousness spanning 200 billion individuals. What exactly do you bring to this council? Jiho stood perfectly still through all of this. His face showed no emotion, no anger, no embarrassment. He simply waited until Jan finished speaking. The silence that followed felt heavy. We request 1 week, Jiho said finally. His voice was quiet compared to the booming tones of the aliens, but it carried clearly. 7 Earth days. We will demonstrate why humanity deserves a place among you. More laughter. A void-born representative, barely visible as it phased in and out of normal space, made a sound like wind through caves. And what will you show us, little humans? How to hunt animals with sharp sticks? How to make fire from rubbing wood together? We will show you what makes humanity different, Jiho replied. Not better, different. And we believe that difference has value. Chancellor Vrax leaned back in his throne. He exchanged glances with several other council members. Finally, he smiled, showing teeth designed for tearing meat. Very well. This will be entertaining, if nothing else. 7 days. Show us this difference you speak of. When you fail, we will assign you a supervised status and perhaps revisit membership in a few thousand years. The council members made various sounds of agreement. To them, this was a diversion, a brief moment of amusement before returning to the serious business of managing a galaxy. What could humans possibly do in 7 days that would change their minds? Jiho bowed slightly. Thank you, Chancellor. We will not waste your time. As the human delegation turned to leave, Hai-Jin Choi, the team's chief scientist, reached into her pocket. She pulled out a small device that looked like nothing more than a simple communicator. Her finger pressed a single button. The message that went out was encrypted in a way that would take the Thraxian quantum computers several hours to crack, which meant, by human standards, it was almost unbreakable. The message was simple. Protocol resilience is approved. Begin Phase 1. Across 7 different star systems, humans who had been waiting for this signal began to move. They had been in position for weeks, preparing, planning, building. Now the work would begin in earnest. In the council chamber, the aliens returned to their other business. They discussed trade routes and border disputes. They debated philosophical questions that had been ongoing for millennia. They paid no attention to the humans who had just left. Only Elder Jan seemed troubled. He floated near the massive windows that looked out over the council station, watching the small human shuttle depart. Something about the way Jehoiad stood there, showing no fear, no uncertainty, bothered him. The Eternal Caste had observed thousands of species over millions of years. They knew the signs of arrogance, of ignorance, of desperation. Jeho had shown none of these. He had shown something else, something Jan couldn't quite identify. It looked almost like confidence, but not the confidence of someone who believed they would win. It was the confidence of someone who had already won and was simply waiting for everyone else to realize it. Jan pushed the thought away. Impossible. Humanity was young, weak, limited. Whatever they planned to show would be interesting at best, embarrassing at worst. In 7 days, this would all be over and forgotten. He had no idea how wrong he was. 3 systems away, on a frozen moon called Krios 9, Engineer Daeho Kim stood in his environmental suit, looking at the wasteland around him. The temperature was 200 degrees below zero. The atmosphere was methane. The surface was ice so hard it could scratch diamond. The Korvathi had tried to build here for 30 years and failed. Daeho smiled inside his helmet. "All right, team," he said into his communicator. "Let's show them how Earth does it. We've got 48 hours to build a city." Behind him, 200 humans began unloading equipment from their transport ships. None of it looked advanced. All of it looked practical. And in their eyes burned something the galaxy had forgotten existed: the will to do the impossible simply because someone said it couldn't be done. Krios 9 had defeated the best the Korvathi Empire could offer. For 3 decades, their engineers had attempted to establish a permanent settlement on the frozen moon. They brought advanced construction drones, molecular assemblers, and gravitic stabilizers that could rearrange matter at the atomic level. They failed every time. The extreme cold caused quantum fluctuations in their equipment. The methane atmosphere corroded their materials. The ice was too hard to excavate efficiently. Daeho Kim stood on that same surface with equipment that would have looked primitive to a 21st century human, let alone a galactic civilization. He had exosuits powered by simple fusion cells, prefabricated habitat modules made of basic alloys, and tools that required human hands to operate. He also had something the Korvathi didn't have: 200 humans who grew up on a planet where survival meant adapting to environments that wanted them dead. Team Alpha, start foundation drilling, Daeho ordered. Team Beta, assemble the core structure. Team Gamma, begin atmospheric processing. The humans moved with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this moment in the Siberian wastes, in Antarctic research stations, in the depths of ocean trenches where pressure could crush submarines. Krios 9 was just another hostile environment. Difficult, yes. Impossible, no. 12 hours into the operation, the first habitat module was pressurized and heated. 16 hours in, 3 more modules connected to form a basic shelter. 24 hours in, 50 humans were living and working without environmental suits in a place the Korvathi had declared uninhabitable across the galaxy. On Thermosphore, Captain Su-Min Lee faced a different challenge. The planet had gravity 3 times that of Earth. Its atmosphere was a toxic mix of sulfur compounds and heavy metals. The pressure at the surface would crush most galactic species within minutes. The Thraxians had attempted colonization here, using their quantum-engineered bodies, designed to exist in multiple states simultaneously. Even they had given up after 5 years. Sumin led her team down in a shuttle that groaned under the gravity. When they stepped out, their exosuits strained against the pressure. Each step felt like walking through concrete. Breathing required conscious effort, even with assisted systems. "This is similar to the Mariana Trench," Sumin said calmly. "We've had people living there for 20 years. Let's set up the pressure equalizers first, then build outward." Her team worked slowly, deliberately. Where Deho's team and Krios 9 relied on speed and efficiency, Sumin's team relied on endurance. They worked in 30-minute shifts, rotating constantly. No single human could handle the conditions for long. But as a team, rotating through hundreds of workers, they could maintain continuous operations indefinitely. By the end of the second day, they had a fully functioning base. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't pretty. But it worked, and it would last. The Galactic Council watched the feeds in stunned silence. What they were seeing shouldn't be possible. These humans used no advanced technology, no quantum manipulation, no gravitic enhancement. They just worked, and worked, and kept working. On Vex Prime, Dr. Minho Kang was conducting the most disturbing demonstration of all. Vex Prime's moon was bathed in radiation from the system's dying star. The levels were so high that even the luminary beings of pure energy couldn't remain there for more than a few hours without risking damage to their coherent structure. Minho walked on the surface in a suit that provided minimal shielding. He and his team were absorbing radiation that would kill most galactic citizens in minutes. They worked in 4-hour shifts, and yes, they would all develop cancers eventually. They knew this. They accepted this. Earth had medical technology to deal with radiation-induced cancers. It wasn't perfect, but it was good enough. Radiation protocols are standard for deep space workers, Minho explained to the monitoring drones that followed him. Humanity has been dealing with radiation since we discovered nuclear fission. We learned to work in it, live in it, survive it. Our bodies are remarkably good at repairing cellular damage. He didn't mention that half his team would need extensive medical treatment after this mission. He didn't mention that some of them might die despite the best care. He only mentioned that humans could work here, and work they did, by the third day. All 7 demonstration sites were fully operational. The Galactic Council demanded explanations. How were humans achieving this? What hidden technology were they using? Jiho appeared before the Council via holographic transmission. He looked tired but satisfied. "You asked what makes humanity special," he said. "We're showing you. No advanced technology. No special powers. Just the ability to look at something impossible and make it work anyway." "This is insane," Chancellor Vrax said, and for the first time he didn't sound amused. He sounded concerned. "Your people are dying to prove a point." 3 people have died, Jiho confirmed. "Accidents during construction. We mourn them. But they volunteered, knowing the risks. Every human on those 7 worlds chose to be there. Why?" Elder Yan asked. "What drives you to such extremes?" Jiho was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Because we can. Because someone said it was impossible. Because our entire history is a story of surviving things that should have killed us. Ice ages, plagues, predators, meteors. We're from a death world. Elder Yan, we evolved in a place where the planet itself tried to kill us every day. These 7 sites, they're actually easier than Earth was for most of our existence." The council chamber was silent. The concept of a death world was known to galactic civilization. Planets where life struggled against extreme conditions. But no species from such a world had ever developed intelligence before. The ones that survived were usually simple organisms, bacteria, or single-celled creatures. Complex life required stable conditions to evolve, or so the galaxy had always believed. "You're from a death world," Yan said slowly, "and you didn't just survive it. You thrived. You conquered it. You made it comfortable." "We made it livable," Jiho corrected. Comfort came later. Much later. On the display screens, the 7 human settlements continued their expansion. On Krios 9, Deho's team was now building additional structures, expanding beyond the basic survival shelter. On Thermos 4, Suman's crew had established mining operations, extracting valuable minerals that the Thraxians had deemed unreachable. On Vex Prime, Minho's team was setting up research stations to study the radiation effects themselves. This wasn't just survival. This was colonization. Permanent, expanding, human colonization of places the galaxy considered uninhabitable. 3 more days remain, Chancellor Vrax said. What else do you plan to show us? Jiho smiled. You've seen what human bodies can endure. Tomorrow, we'll show you what human minds can create. The transmission ended. In the council chamber, representatives from 47 species looked at each other with a new emotion. Not amusement anymore. Not even respect. Something closer to concern. Because if humanity could do this while barely understanding galactic technology, what would they accomplish once they truly understood it? Elder Jan floated alone by the observation windows long after the session ended. He watched the stars and thought about death worlds. About species that evolved to survive the unsurvivable. About what kind of civilization such a species might build. For the first time in a million years, he felt something he had forgotten existed. He felt uncertain about the future. And for a being of the eternal caste, uncertainty was terrifying. The 4th day began with something the Galactic Council had never experienced before. Confusion. Anthropologist Una Hans stood in the center of the council chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing Earth's history. But the history she showed made no sense to the assembled aliens. This is the Battle of Thermopylae, Una said, gesturing to an image of ancient Greek warriors. 300 Spartans held a narrow pass against an army of thousands. They all died. We celebrate them as heroes. You celebrate failure? A Thraxian representative asked, mandibles clicking in confusion. We celebrate sacrifice, Una corrected. The Spartans knew they would lose. They fought anyway because it gave their people time to prepare. The battle was a defeat. The story inspired generations. She changed the image. This is the Library of Alexandria. It held thousands of scrolls containing knowledge from across the ancient world. It burned down. Much of that knowledge was lost forever. We still talk about it 3,000 years later. Why preserve the memory of loss? Elder Jan asked. Una smiled. Because we learn from failure as much as success. Maybe more. Every human child learns about the Library of Alexandria. It teaches us that knowledge is fragile, that preservation matters, that we should make copies, create backups, spread information widely so it can never be truly destroyed. The council members exchanged confused glances. The Luminari kept perfect records in their crystalline matrices. The Eternal Caste had memory archives going back millions of years with complete accuracy. The idea of learning from destroyed knowledge seemed backwards. Here's another example, Una continued. We have thousands of religions. Different gods, different rules, different explanations for how the universe works. Many of them contradict each other. Some claim there's one God. Others say many gods. Some say no gods at all. And you haven't determined which is correct? A Corvathi asked. No, Una said simply. We argue about it. We debate. We fight sometimes. But we also let people believe different things. We preserve all these stories even when they contradict each other. The chamber fell silent. The concept was almost offensive to species who had achieved perfect knowledge through consensus. Why would anyone preserve wrong information? Before anyone could object, musician Teono walked into the chamber carrying a strange device. It was a saxophone, though. No alien there knew what to call it. He didn't ask permission. He simply began to play. The music that came out had no structure the galactic citizens could identify. It wasn't following mathematical patterns like Thraxian harmonic sequences. It wasn't expressing quantum states like Luminari light symphonies. It was just sound, changing and flowing in ways that seemed random. Tyon played for 3 minutes, then stopped. That's called jazz, he said. I didn't plan it. I made it up as I went along. If I play again, it will be completely different. That's not music, a Thraxian protested. Music requires structure, mathematical precision, predetermined harmonics. Human music doesn't, Taeyeon replied. Sometimes we plan it. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes the best music comes from mistakes. A string breaks, and we incorporate the sound into the performance. A note comes out wrong, and we build on it instead of starting over. He played again, this time deliberately hitting what the Thraxians would call wrong notes. But then he wove them into the melody, making the mistakes part of the music. By the end, it was beautiful in a way that violated every principle of galactic musical theory. Professor Narration took over next. She showed the council invention after invention that humans had discovered by accident. Penicillin found when mold contaminated a bacterial culture. Microwave ovens invented when a scientist noticed chocolate melting near a radar device. Vulcanized rubber created when someone dropped rubber mixed with sulfur onto a hot stove. Call this serendipity, Nari explained. The art of finding valuable things we weren't looking for. Most of our greatest discoveries came from accidents, mistakes, or people looking for something completely different. This is chaos, Chancellor Vrack said. How do you make progress when you don't plan your research? We do plan, Nari said. But we also explore. We try things just to see what happens. We follow hunches. We pursue ideas that seem crazy. Most fail. But the ones that succeed change everything. She showed them the history of human flight. Hundreds of failed attempts, people dying in crashes, machines that could never work. But humans kept trying different approaches, until one war. Ked. If we had tried to calculate the perfect flying machine from first principles, we might still be on the ground, Nari said. Instead, we failed our way to success. The afternoon session brought philosopher Junho Bei, 8, and his presentation disturbed the council more than anything they had seen. He discussed human ethics and morality. Can't agree on what's right, Junho said calmly. Some of us believe in absolute moral truths. Others believe morality is relative. Some think ethics come from gods. Others think we create ethics ourselves through reason and society. But your civilization functions, Elder Yan said. How can it function without agreed-upon moral principles? We agree on some things, Junho replied. Murder is wrong. Theft is wrong. Beyond that, we argue constantly. We debate. We write thousands of books proposing different ethical systems. We test them in practice. We change our minds when old ideas stop working. He showed them examples. Human societies that had practiced slavery, then abolished it. Cultures that denied rights to women, then granted equality. Systems of justice that evolved over centuries, constantly being revised and improved. You change your fundamental principles. A void-born asked, its voice echoing with disbelief. We improve them, Junho corrected. We realized we were wrong about something, so we change. The Eternal Caste achieved moral perfection millions of years ago, correct? You have no moral questions left to answer. Correct, Elder Yan confirmed. We have millions of moral questions, Junho said. We debate them every day. Whether to extend life artificially, whether to modify our genetics, how to balance individual freedom against collective security, what rights to give artificial intelligences? These questions don't have simple answers, so we keep discussing them. That sounds exhausting, Yan said. It is, Junho agreed. It's also how we improve. Our ethics today are better than they were 1,000 years ago. And in 1,000 years, they'll be better still. Perfection isn't a destination for us. It's a direction. As the presentations ended, the council sat in stunned silence. They had expected to see impressive technology or physical capabilities. Instead, they had witnessed something far more unsettling, a civilization that embraced chaos, celebrated failure, preserved contradictions, and questioned everything, including itself. This is your demonstration? Chancellor Vrax asked. Showing us how disorganized you are? We're showing you how we think, Yuna replied. You asked, what makes humanity different? This is it. We don't have perfect knowledge, so we keep searching. We don't have moral certainty, so we keep questioning. We don't have predetermined paths, so we keep exploring. And you believe this is a strength? Yan asked. Yasuna said simply. Because the universe keeps changing. What worked 1,000,000 years ago might not work today. Perfection is brittle. It breaks when circumstances change. Chaos adapts. The council members looked at each other. For species that had achieved stability through perfection, the human approach seemed insane, but they couldn't deny the results. Humanity had advanced faster in 10,000 years than most species did in 100,000. Maybe chaos wasn't weakness. Maybe it was something else entirely. Something the galaxy had forgotten how to do. On the 5th day, the demonstrations took a darker turn. Cybersecurity specialist Yanji Lim stood before the Galactic Council with a simple request. "I need access to the Thraxian Quantum Communication Network," she said. "Just for a few minutes." Thraxian representatives made sounds of amusement. Their network was unhackable. It used quantum encryption that would take conventional computing 1,000,000,000,000 years to break. The keys changed every microsecond based on quantum fluctuations that couldn't be predicted or replicated. Giving this human access would prove nothing except the futility of her attempt. "Granted the lead," Thraxian said. "For educational purposes," Yunji pulled out a simple data tablet. She connected to the network through the public access port provided. Then she did something that made no sense. Instead of attacking the encryption, she simply sent a message. "Emergency maintenance required on subnet Delta 7th. Please authenticate access code." Response came back immediately. "Authentication required. Please provide credentials." Yunji sent a second message. "Credentials corrupted in recent quantum fluctuation event. Requesting emergency override per Protocol 77 Alpha." There was a pause. Then, protocol confirmed. "Temporary access granted. Duration, 17 minutes. Yunji smiled and turned her tablet toward the council. She now had full administrative access to a network that was supposed to be impossible to hack. The Thraxian representatives stood in shock, their mandibles frozen mid-click. "How?" one of them finally asked. "Social engineering," Yunji replied. "I didn't break your encryption. I talked my way past your security. You have protocols for emergency situations. Those protocols are designed to help legitimate users who have problems. I simply pretended to be a legitimate user with a problem." "But the system should have verified," the Thraxian protested. "It did verify. It checked whether Protocol 77 Alpha exists." "It does. It checked whether quantum fluctuations can corrupt credentials." "They can." "Everything I said was technically possible, so the system assumed I was legitimate." Yunji closed the connection and handed the tablet to the Thraxian. "Your encryption is perfect. Your technology is flawless. Your security failed because it trusted logical consistency. Humans learned long ago that the weakest point in any system isn't the technology. It's the beings using it." Before the council could fully process this, Intelligence Officer Hansol Quan stood up. What he said next changed everything. "Human operatives have been embedded in 43 of your 47 governments for the past decade," he said calmly. "We have people in the Korvathi Military Command, in the Thraxian Research Councils, in the Luminary Energy Collectives, in the Eternal Cast's administrative bodies." The chamber erupted. Accusations flew. Security alerts sounded. How could humans possibly infiltrate so many species? "We didn't infiltrate," Hansol clarified. "We applied for jobs. We went through your standard recruitment processes. We learned your languages, studied your cultures, and became qualified candidates. Then we got hired." He displayed a list of names and positions. Each one was a human who had legitimately earned a position within an alien government or organization. Some had been working there for years. Some had received promotions. None had done anything illegal or even suspicious. "You're spies," Chancellor Vrock said, his voice dangerous. "We're employees," Hansol corrected. "We do our jobs. We follow your rules. We contribute to your organizations. The fact that we also observe and report back to Earth is, well, a bonus." "This is an act of war," a Korvathi general said. "No," Hansol replied. "This is an act of participation. You have open employment policies. We participated. If you had infiltrated Earth's governments, we would consider it a compliment. It would mean we had something worth infiltrating." Elder Yan floated forward. "How many humans are in my administration?" 7, Hansel said. All in mid-level analytical positions. All doing excellent work. Your efficiency ratings have improved by 12% since they were hired. Network analyst Juan Park took over the presentation. She explained the human concept of the internet, a vast, chaotic network where information replicated and spread without central control. The galactic species maintained organized archives. Humans had millions of servers, billions of devices, all sharing data in messy, redundant patterns. Delete one piece of information from our network, and 1,000 copies still exist, Guan said. We don't have perfect archives like you do. We have something better. We have information that's impossible to completely destroy because no one knows where all the copies are. She demonstrated by uploading a simple text file to the human internet. Within seconds, it had been copied to servers on Earth, on Mars, on orbital stations, on ships in transit. Some copies were complete. Some were fragments. Some were deliberately corrupted. But the information spread like a virus through the network. Try to erase it, Juan challenged. The Thraxians tried. Their quantum processors located dozens of copies and deleted them. But for every copy they removed, 10 more appeared. Users had downloaded the file, shared it, backed it up. It existed in email attachments, in automated backups, in archives no one remembered creating. After an hour, the Thraxians gave up. The file still existed in thousands of locations across the human network. This is chaos, a Thraxian said. This is resilience, Jiwan replied. Your archives are perfect until someone destroys them. Then they're gone forever. Our archives are messy, but they survive anything short of complete human extinction. And maybe even that. Director Siajanan gave the final presentation of the day, and it was the most disturbing. He displayed a map showing human presence throughout the galaxy, not just the 7 demonstration sites, not just the embedded operatives, but traders, researchers, tourists, students, workers, thousands of humans scattered across hundreds of worlds. We've been among you for 12 years, Siajan said. In that time, we've integrated ourselves into your civilization so thoroughly that removing us would be extremely difficult. We're in your supply chains. We work in your research labs. We teach in your universities. We're married to your citizens. We have children who are half human, half Phalian. You're infiltrating through breeding, Vrax asked, horrified. We're living, Siojin replied. Humans go where we can. We adapt to local conditions. We make friends. We fall in love. We build lives. This isn't a military strategy. It's just what we do. And if we asked you to leave? Elder Jan asked quietly. Some would, Sajin admitted, but many wouldn't. They've built lives here. They're part of your societies now. You'd have to forcibly remove them, which would damage your relationships with their alien partners, their employers, their friends. He paused. We didn't plan this as an invasion. We just naturally become part of any system we're exposed to. It's how we survived on Earth. We spread out, integrate, adapt. By the time anyone realizes we're there, we're already woven into the fabric of their society. The council sat in silence. They had thought humanity was asking for permission to join galactic civilization. Now they realized humanity had already joined. The vote was just a formality. The integration had happened years ago. Quietly, naturally, inevitably. How long have you truly been among us? Jan asked. Siajin smiled. Long enough to know you never asked? The session ended in chaos. Council members demanded security reviews. Some called for human expulsion. Others argued that humans had broken no laws. The debate raged for hours. Meanwhile, in quiet corners across the galaxy, humans continued their work. They filed reports, analyzed data, built relationships. They weren't waiting for permission anymore. They were already home. The 7th day arrived, with tension heavy in the air. The Galactic Council gathered once more, but the atmosphere had completely changed. Where mockery once lived, now suspicion dwelt. Where amusement had been, concern had taken root. The representatives no longer saw humanity as a curiosity. They saw them as a problem without a clear solution. Admiral Borum. Choi entered the chamber in a military uniform that looked plain compared to the elaborate armor and energy. Shields worn by other species' military leaders. She carried no weapons, no impressive technology. She simply walked to the center and activated a holographic display. "You've asked what makes humanity worthy of this council," Borum said. "You've seen our physical resilience, our cultural chaos, our integration capabilities. Today, I'll show you our military doctrine, and I'll explain why it terrifies me." The last statement caught everyone's attention. A human admitting fear of human capabilities? Borum displayed historical battles from Earth. She didn't show victories. She showed defeats that somehow became victories through sheer refusal to accept loss. She showed the Eastern Front of World War II, where millions died, but neither side would surrender. She showed Vietnam, where a technologically inferior force defeated a superpower through persistence. She showed Afghanistan, where empires went to die because the local population simply outlasted them. Other species fight to win, Borum explained. Humans fight to not lose. There's a difference. Winning requires achieving objectives. Not losing just requires surviving long enough for the enemy to give up. She showed combat footage from human history. Soldiers fighting with broken equipment, civilians resisting occupation through non-cooperation, entire populations enduring bombardment rather than surrendering. "We have a concept called acceptable losses," Borum said. "Every military does. But our definition of acceptable is very different from yours." A Korvathi general stood. "We understand sacrifice. We honor warriors who die in battle. Do you honor warriors who die accomplishing nothing?" Borum asked. "Do you send soldiers on missions where survival is impossible and success unlikely, just to slow down an enemy? Do you consider 90% casualties acceptable if the remaining 10% achieve the objective?" The Korvathi general sat down slowly. Borum continued. "We have historical records of human units fighting to the last person. Not because they were ordered to, but because retreating didn't occur to them. We have records of cities that chose destruction over surrender, of populations that endured occupation for generations, maintaining resistance until the occupiers left." She displayed casualty figures from human wars. The numbers were staggering. Millions dead in single conflicts. Entire generations lost. Civilizations brought to the edge of collapse, then rebuilding and continuing. "You fight wars to minimize casualties and achieve clean victories," Borum said. "We fight wars to win no matter the cost. And if we can't win, we fight to make victory so expensive that our enemies regret attacking us." Strategist Kyung Sunam took over the presentation. He explained the concept of mutually assured destruction. The doctrine that had prevented nuclear war on Earth. The idea was simple. Build weapons so destructive that using them guaranteed your own destruction. Then make sure everyone knew you'd use them anyway if attacked. "This is insane," Elder Yan said. "You're threatening to destroy yourselves to deter enemies?" "Yes," Kung Su confirmed. And it worked. For over a century, no nation used nuclear weapons in war because everyone knew it would mean everyone dies. We didn't prevent war by making victory easy. We prevented it by making victory impossible. He displayed human military theory, asymmetric warfare, guerrilla tactics, insurgency operations, terror attacks, scorched earth policies. Every method was designed to make occupation and conquest more costly than simply leaving humans alone. "You could defeat us militarily," Kung Su admitted. "The Korvathi fleet alone could glass Earth. But then what? You'd have a dead planet and millions of humans scattered across the galaxy. Who would spend the rest of their lives making you pay for it? You'd never know which human was a sleeper agent. You'd never know which ship had a human crew member who sabotaged critical systems. You'd never trust again." The Void-born representative phased into visibility. "You're threatening us?" "No," Kung Su said. "We're explaining our nature. Humans don't make good enemies because we don't know when to quit. We lost most of our major wars on Earth, at least initially. Then we adapted, changed strategies, and kept fighting until we won. Sometimes it took decades, sometimes centuries, but we don't have a cultural concept of permanent defeat. Ambassador Jiho stood for the final statement. He looked tired. The 7-day demonstration had taken its toll on him and every human involved. 3 people had died in the construction projects. Dozens more had been injured. Billions of credits had been spent. All for this moment. You asked what we want? Jiho said quietly. We want partnership. Not dominance. Not conquest. Partnership. After everything you've shown us, Chancellor Vrax said, you expect us to trust you? No, Jiho replied. Trust is earned over time. We're asking for opportunity. Let us prove that humanity's chaos can benefit the galaxy. Let us share our resilience with species that have forgotten how to struggle. Let us bring our creativity to problems that perfect logic can't solve. He gestured to the displays around them, still showing the 7 human settlements on impossible worlds. We built on Creos 9 because we could. We survived on Vex Prime because we're stubborn. We hacked your networks because we think differently. We integrated into your societies because we're social creatures who thrive on connection and your military capabilities. Jan asked. We showed you those so you'd understand, Jiho said. Humanity won't be conquered. Can't be, really. But we don't want to conquer others either. Earth's history is full of empires that rose and fell. We learned that conquest is temporary. Partnership lasts. He paused. We're offering you something no other species has offered in 1,000,000 years. We're offering you change, growth, the possibility that the galaxy can be different than it's been. Maybe better, maybe worse, but definitely different. The council chamber fell silent. Representatives looked at each other, having silent conversations through their various communication methods. Some showed fear, some showed interest, some showed confusion. Finally, Elder Jan spoke. The Eternal Caste has existed in perfect harmony for 3,000,000 years. We achieved peace through understanding all possibilities. Humanity represents something we didn't predict. You're chaotic in ways we can't model. You're resilient in ways we can't explain. You're dangerous in ways we can't defend against. Ow. So that's a no? Jiho asked. That's a yes, Jan replied. But not because we respect you, because we recognize that you're already here. Already integrated. Already impossible to remove without damaging ourselves. The vote is a formality. Humanity joined galactic civilization the moment you left Earth. We just didn't realize it. Chancellor Vrax stood. All in favor of granting humanity full council membership? The vote was unanimous. Every species agreed, though their reasons varied. Some saw opportunity. Some saw threat. Some simply recognized reality. Humanity was here to stay. As the session ended, and the humans prepared to leave, Vrax approached Jiho privately. What will you do now? He asked. Jiho smiled. We'll keep doing what we've always done. We'll explore, build, learn, fail, try again. Probably make mistakes that horrify you. Definitely change things you thought were permanent. You're not worried about making enemies? We're worried about making boring friends, Jiho replied. The galaxy's been stable for millions of years. Stable is just